Rasia and Nabila from Sycamore Ali in Harrow, part of North London Citizens.
We are excited that our London Citizen Mayoral Assembly will start in only 15 minutes, so we advise you to get your tea and samosas right now. We can't wait to see what this assembly holds.
And we'll celebrate the change we'll have won over iftar afterwards.
Ask me for samosas, Mum. I'm feeling rather hungry.
We stand here today because of the work we did yesterday and the day before. In fact, we stand here today because of the work that we've been doing for 2 years. Let me tell you about our journey. 1. June 2019, we listened. We met thousands of Londoners across the city to hear their stories. Maybe we listened to you. 2. August, we organised. We divided up the stories we heard into different areas: housing, living wage, climate crisis, welcome, and youth safety. 3. September, we got the experts. We worked with policy experts to understand what would have the biggest impact and truly transform our city. 4. October, we grafted. Our campaign teams finalised the asks. 5. November, we voted. 600 people voted for the most important campaigns. And then the world changed. COVID hit. The mayoral elections were postponed. We paused our campaigns and leapt into action, crowdfunding and providing direct support to those who needed it most. And then we got back to it. 6. November 2020, we grafted again, unpacking our 5 campaigns in the light of COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement. 7. February 2021, we voted again, deciding on our priority issues. And finally, 8. April 2021, we're here, bringing our campaign asks and policy changes to the 2 leading candidates. It's time for us to make our voices heard. Together, we are London citizens. Together, we can transform our city.
Good evening, London. My name is Victoria, and I am one of the co-founders of Kings for Change, part of King's College London. As a Londoner, I believe that together we can transform our city. In a few weeks, we will elect a new mayor, a new chapter for our great city. And 20 candidates are asking us, Londoners, for the privilege of leading our great city. Tonight, we will present our London Citizens Manifesto to the 2 candidates leading the polls. Sean Bailey from the Conservative Party and Sadiq Khan from the Labour Party will have to respond to the concerns and opportunities presented by our communities.
everyone, my name is Basede from St. John's Hoxton, part of Hackney Citizens. I'm joining tonight from East London, representing Telco. Our amazing London Citizen Mayoral Assembly will start in 10 minutes. Yes, 10 minutes. So grab a drink or something to eat, get yourself comfortable on your sofa, and get ready for an exciting evening. Together we are London citizens, and together we can transform our city. God bless you.
Successes. What does London Citizens do? We build power and make change. Fantastic, extraordinary, life-altering change. Change that makes our world a better place to live in. Here are just 4 campaigns that London Citizens have won recently. The London Citizens Olympic Legacy team won a housing campaign. 150 houses have been sold or rented at genuinely affordable prices. 150 families have a place to call home. Tate and Lyle have become a living wage employer in last November. The East London campaign team have put more than £14 million into the pockets of ordinary people over their 3 years' work. South London Citizens have won a youth safety campaign. The borough commander in Lambeth and Southwark will no longer post pictures online that encourages stereotypes about the kind of people who carry knives. Hundreds of teenagers no longer feel stereotyped. And Redbridge Citizens created Malachi Place, a modular housing initiative which opened last March and has provided a durable housing solution. 42 residents had a place to call their own throughout the pandemic. That's what London Citizens does.
We stand here today because of the work we did yesterday and the day before. In fact, we stand here today because of the work that we've been doing for 2 years. Let me tell you about our journey. 1. June 2019, we listened. We met thousands of Londoners across the city to hear their stories. Maybe we listened to you. 2. August, we organised. We divided up the stories we heard into different areas: housing, living wage, climate crisis, welcome, and youth safety. 3. September, we got the experts. We worked with policy experts to understand what would have the biggest impact and truly transform our city. 4. October, we grafted. Our campaign teams finalised the asks. 5. November, we voted. 600 people voted for the most important campaigns. And then the world changed. COVID hit. The mayoral elections were postponed. We paused our campaigns and leapt into action, crowdfunding and providing direct support to those who needed it most. And then we got back to it. 6. November 2020, we grafted again, unpacking our 5 campaigns in the light of COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement. 7. February 2021, we voted again, deciding on our priority issues. And finally, 8. April 2021, we're here, bringing our campaign asks and policy changes to the 2 leading candidates. It's time for us to make our voices heard. Together, we are London citizens. Together, we can transform our city.
My name is Michaela and I am from St. Mary's School in Lewisham. Our extraordinary London Citizens mayoral event is about to start in 5 minutes. You have time to get a cup of tea and dress in your fanciest clothes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem to everybody. This is your brother Imam Qadi Ashiq al-Rahman of Darul Ummah Masjid in Shadwell, East London. We are a part of Telco as well. This is a very special month. This is the month of reconnecting with our Creator. It's a month of reciting the Quran, understanding it and practicing it and preaching it. The Quran is so beautiful. So many lessons of how to become more spiritually content, how to learn to know who our Creator is. What is this life and the next life about? What Islam came for as a message and as a mission. One of the key things that Islam is trying to teach people about is social justice, fairness, that people should be heard, their rights should be delivered. God says about this month in the Holy Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. Fasting is to make us more conscious of our Creator so that with this consciousness and awareness we can ensure that we are fulfilling the commandments and the instructions of our Creator more. God also says in another ayah, another sentence, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله. O you who believe, be those who stand up for justice. Be witnesses for people on this planet. I hope this Ramadan goes amazingly for every single person who's observing it. Thank you all for listening to me. Peace be with you all. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am Banu Shah from Riverside Muslim Association. What does London Citizens do? We build power, make change, fantastic, extraordinary, life-altering change, change that makes our world better. There are 4 campaigns that London Citizens have won recently. London Citizens Olympic Legacy Team won a housing campaign. Well done. 150 houses have been sold or rented at genuinely affordable prices. 150 families have a place to call home. Great.
Hello, I'm Reverend Bryony Franklin from St Martin's, West Acton in West London. I'm joining this evening from the banks of our beautiful river on the way home from work. You've just got 1 minute until the start of our extraordinary mayoral assembly for London citizens. So you've got 60 seconds to grab any other members of your family who are joining you at the computer.
Hi, I'm Bakari from Croydon North Deanery representing Public Spirit at this very special event. Talking of events, this is your only warning to say that the event starts very, very soon. So grab your family, friends, even your dog, get some snacks and sit on the couch. You are not going to want to miss this.
Bienvenidos and welcome to the London Citizens Mayoral Election Assembly 2021. My name is Claudia Lopez, a proud Colombiana, and I will be one of your 4 co-chairs this evening, representing South London citizens. I'm an English as an additional language teacher at St Gabriel's College in the heart of Lambeth. The pandemic has deepened existing inequalities and also reminded us of the need to care for our neighbours. Our organising didn't stop. If anything, we have doubled down our efforts, driven by our belief that together we can and must rebuild a better and more equal London. Tonight, we are joined over 5,000 community leaders from across 270 member organisations of London citizens. Together, we are putting democracy in action. As London citizens, we tackle the issues that matter to our communities. We step up and are part of the solution, earning our rightful place at the decision-making table, holding politicians to account. We are proud to be London at its best, diverse, united and determined. So let's start by reminding ourselves about why we do what we do. 4 speakers will be reflecting on why organising for justice is important to them and their tradition. First, we are honoured to hear from Zoe Jacobs, a reminder that you all have 1 minute each.
Good evening. I'm Zoe Jacobs from Finchley Progressive Synagogue. If 1 is good, 2 has to be better. This is not a Jewish saying, but it was said to me by a Jew. He told me it related originally to biscuits, but I think it might apply to other things too. Lo alecha hamlaha likmor, v'lo ata ben chorin libatel mimena, from Pirkei Avot, the sayings of the fathers. It means you do not need to complete the work, but neither can you stop trying. To do work knowing you won't complete it is an extraordinary leap of faith. Faith that others will take on the job after you. Faith that it will eventually be done. Citizens UK allows our faith to exist. By working in a broad-based alliance, we know that we are not alone right now. We do this work together. And as we do it, we are nourishing the people of tomorrow to pick up the task. If 1 is good, 2 has to be better. Or, in this assembly, though maybe not for biscuits, if 1 is good, 5,000 is better.
Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Mahara Ruby. I chair the Mariam Centre Women's Committee and I'm a trustee at East London Mosque and Citizens UK. Ramadan Kareem, and very good to be here and see a large number of Muslim leaders here while we're all fasting. Ramadan is a time of contemplation, connection and contribution, giving us the energy to serve our Creator and His creation. Serving others entails ensuring justice at a political and economic level, all the way down to interpersonal interactions with family and neighbours. A story comes to mind when our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, heard about an incident in Abyssinia where an elderly woman was pushed. He declared, "How would God sanctify a nation that does not protect its underprivileged from its powerful?" So when we come together, we have the ability to leverage the collective strength of our people to serve the well-being of humanity. Let's continue the work together.
Good evening. My name is Right Reverend Dr. Caraway Dogu, the Bishop of Woolwich in Suffolk Diocese, South London. It's a pleasure to be with you all this evening. We believe as Christians, the Holy Scripture teaches us in Ecclesiastes that 2 are better than 1 because they get a better reward for their labor. We believe God created humanity to live in paradise and harmony, but sin spoiled the picture. Then God gave his son Jesus Christ to die for our sins, to remedy the situation. And Jesus gave us, as his followers, a great commission, which gives us a mandate to visit the sick, clothe the naked, feed the hungry, heal the sick, house the homeless, and welcome the refugee. London Citizens offers us an opportunity to work in partnership with other Londoners to fulfill our mandate of God's love care and his care for social justice for all humanity.
My name is Anne-Marie and I'm the CEO of the Brilliant Club. We're a charity that helps young people access university. As an educator, I believe in the capacity of people to learn, grow and cooperate to create a better world. Organising is vital to improving educational opportunity. We achieve more when we bring together what happens both inside and outside of the classroom. COVID has demanded that we stay apart to keep each other safe. For many of us, the moment of vaccination is the first time we can be together to fight this pandemic. I was vaccinated last week. Hundreds of us queued, quietly, patiently, stewarded by volunteers. We smiled behind our masks, and the quiet hope of being together was in everybody's eyes. COVID has been a tragedy for so many, but it has shown us the strength of human endeavour in individuals, in communities, and in our great city, London.
Thank you for those powerful reflections. Good evening, London citizens. My name is Caroline Verdant, and I'm from St Anthony's Catholic Primary School in Newham, and I will be your telco co-chair for this evening. Tonight is not a hustings. We are not here to listen to politicians about their agendas. Tonight we are here as organised people assembled to put forward our manifesto for change to the next Mayor of London. Our manifesto has been created by Londoners from different backgrounds, rooted in our communities. This has been 2 years of listening to one another in our thousands and asking the question, what is putting pressure on you and those that you care about? Our vision is to transform our city, and tonight we will see that vision realised. And also, London citizens, after the year that we've had, what are we waiting for?
Brilliant. Thanks, Caroline. Good evening, everyone. My name's Rod Green. I'm the vicar at St Peter's in Harrow. I'm going to be your co-chair tonight for North London citizens. Tonight, we're going to hear testimonies from those impacted by our 5 issues. These are stories from Londoners you don't usually get to hear. Let's respect these stories. Let's respect one another on the live chat. Let's respect our candidates too, who are with us this evening. Let's be an example of how politics can be and should be too. Both mayoral candidates will get an opportunity to respond and to explain to us how they're going to work with London citizens if they're elected as Mayor of London. You can get involved as well. There is a live chat, as I've mentioned. There's going to be an interactive poem a little bit later on as well. If you'd like to get involved in that, write a tweet that says, "My home is," and fill in the blank with your own thoughts. And when you tweet it, make sure you include the hashtag London Citizens or Together We Can. As always, we plan to finish on time, and tonight that's going to be 7:40. Claudia is our timekeeper, as well as a co-chair, and she is going to be keeping us on track. For every speaker, when there's 30 seconds left, they will hear this bell. And then the second time they hear the bell, they will need to stop whoever they are. Okay, I think we're ready. Umi, over to you.
Thank you, Rod. And hello, everyone. I'm Amy, a 16-year-old student at Reach Academy in Feltham, part of Hounslow Citizens. So now it's time to kick things off with our roll call. London Citizens, we are a powerful alliance of diverse, organised institutions. And tonight we want to recognise and lift up our members, all 270 of them. Please put in the live chat where you are joining us from and why you are excited to be here. Together, we are London Citizens.
London Citizens, across 36 boroughs of our city. South London Citizens.
My name is Michael Tulloch from Trinity United Reformed Church in Wimbledon. We're part of Merton Citizens, and we have 14 member institutions.
My name is Jane from Notre Dame School and Southwark Youth for Change, part of Southwark and Peckham Citizens, and we have 29 institutions.
My name is Ariola from Special Program. I'm part of Croydon Citizens and we are currently building our alliance.
I'm Abigail, I'm part of Kings for Change and we are a member of Lambeth Citizens and we have 24 member institutions.
My name is Felicia. I'm from Creating Ground, part of Greenwich Citizens. We are 11 member institutions. Thank you.
My name is Nina, and this is Amelia from St. Mary's Church, Battersea, part of Wandsworth Citizens. And we are one small but mighty institution and building.
I'm Kende from Bisham Citizens. We are 50 members and we are currently building our alliances.
West London Citizens.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm from William Perkin High School and I'm representing Ealing Citizens. We have 8 member institutions.
Hi, I'm Zari from West London Zone, part of Hammersmith and Fulham Citizens. We are building a powerful alliance starting with 2 member institutions.
Hi, my name is Ellis. I'm from St Mary's Church in Osterley, part of Hounslow Citizens, and we have 6 member institutions.
Hi, I'm Elijah from St James's Church, Piccadilly. We're part of Westminster Citizens and we have 7 member institutions.
North London Citizens.
My name is Leslie Etkind. I'm from Colchai Synagogue. We're part of Harrow Citizens and we currently have 8 member institutions.
My name is Drew Varani, part of Newman Catholic College. I'm Brent Citizens and we have 6 institutions.
My name is Lucy, and I'm from UCL's Institute of Education. We're part of Camden Citizens, and we have 7 member institutions.
My name is Elvan Asutai, and I'm from the Alevi Centre and Gemevi, which is part of Haringey Citizens, and we currently have 12 institutions.
My name is Alcinda from Wesley's Chapel and Museum Mission, part of Islington Citizens, and we have 5 member institutions.
I'm Adrian Lister from Finchley Progressive Synagogue, part of Barnet Citizens that has 8 member institutions.
East London Citizens, Telco.
Hello, I'm Francis from All Saints Catholic School, and we're from Barking Dagenham Citizens with 9 member institutions.
Hi, I'm Helen from the Unity Unitarian Church. We're part of Hackney Citizens, which has 15 member organisations.
Hi, I'm Joanna from Minden Tower Hamlets and Newham, part of Newham Citizens, where we have 23 member institutions.
Hi, I'm Polly from Holy Trinity and St Augustine of Hippo Church in Waltham Forest, where we have 11 member institutions.
Hi, my name is Rezan Al-Faradi and I'm from the East London Mosque, part of Tower Hamlets Citizens, and we have 18 of member institutions.
Hi, my name is Casey from Caterham High School. I'm from Redbridge and Ilford Citizens, where we have 11 institutions.
Together we are London Citizens. Together we can transform our city.
Wow, this is who we are. Over 100 faith groups, 60 community groups, more than 50 schools and 11 universities and student unions. Collectively, we pay over £500,000 in membership dues, enabling tens of thousands of people to participate in democracy.
So good to see Darul Umar Mosque from my old stomping ground in East London, and to see King's College London as well, and Old Oak Common Primary School. We are such a diverse alliance. It's amazing to see everyone with us. But we've introduced each other. Now we need to hear from the candidates. Now this is important because we want to work together with whoever it is who is elected the next Mayor of London. And so this is to our 2 candidates. Welcome. I've got 2 questions for both of you. The first is this: what is your vision for London? And the second is, will you meet with London citizens twice a year throughout your term of office? I would like to invite Mr. Bailey to kick us off. You've each got 2 minutes, and don't forget, Claudia will ring the bell to give you a 30-second warning, and then if you exceed your allotted time, she will again ring the bell until you stop. Mr. Bailey.
Good evening all, it's great to be here and it's so great to see all your members because of course my first interaction with London Citizens was when I was running my youth charity and you came along and spoke to me and talked about the work you wanted to do. I want to say Assalamu alaikum to my Muslim brothers and sisters who are worshipping in the holy month of Ramadan and looking forward to breaking your fast. Look, we've heard this described as 2 is better than 1. We've heard it described as a society that should be protecting its weak. We've heard it described as the Great Commission, and that is correct. London Citizens and the activity you have and the charities you have in London is about coming together and representing the weakest parts of our community that really need that help. The places that without organised community groups, the government would never get to, the mayor would never get to. So what we need to do is make sure we support the work you're doing. So when you say, will I meet you twice a year, let's call it 3 times a year. You have to meet. As a politician, how you learn things is by meeting the people doing the work. I remember when I was running my charity and I would constantly come across the same problems all the time. But every time I spoke to someone in power, it'd be news to them. It'd be new to them. So I fully understand why we need to have these meetings and why we need to meet so regularly. And I will be setting up forums to make sure as well, when I can't attend because the Mayor of London is busy, the office of the Mayor of London will always be there. The air will be open. They will always get a listening, welcoming hand, because the issues that you've raised are unbelievable that they still exist in London today. The bottom line is this: London Citizens is actually a great way for the Mayor to quickly learn what some of the communities across London really need. So absolutely our pledge to meet. In fact, I look forward to meeting because for me it's a continuation of the community work I started when I was 16 years old. Thank you for having me this evening. I look forward to the rest of the evening.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Khan, over to you.
In another Citizens UK pre-election meeting. I remember the one back in 2016 at the Copperbox Arena, almost 5 years ago to the day. There was a brilliant atmosphere there, and it was one of the highlights of the then campaign. Unfortunately, we can't all come together the same way this time, but I know we'll still have a brilliant discussion this evening. Let me answer your second question first. You asked if I'll meet London Citizens twice a year. I say we can do better than that. Over the last 5 years, myself, my deputy mayors and my City Hall staff have met with Citizens UK on a regular basis, and I see no reason why we should reduce the engagement in a second term. The first question you asked was about my vision. I believe this election is about how we can build an even better London after the pandemic than before. In 1945, Londoners rebuilt and renewed, working together to shape a more equal society for everyone. A society which is only fit for our wartime heroes, but which opened the doors of opportunity for future generations of Londoners, including mine. And I believe it's our turn. It's our turn to work together with that same vigour for London, to tackle the inequalities that still scar our society, and to build a city that's fairer, greener and safer, as well as being more prosperous for all Londoners. I want every Londoner to have the chance to fulfil their potential, regardless of race, gender, religion, sexual orientation, disability or class. I love London, and I think our best days lay ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan and Mr. Bailey. It is so good to hear you both say how committed you are to working with London Citizens for your term of office. It's our belief that when people from different backgrounds work together and organise, then it is possible to create real change. Our young leaders are often the most passionate and the most hopeful. So we're going to hear a musical message now from the children from St John the Baptist Primary School in Hackney that captures what tonight is all about.
Together we can learn.
Together we can play.
Together we can dance.
Together we can sing.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe it's not too late. Together we can change the world. Lay the puzzle pieces out. Find out what it's all about. Together we can change the world.
Together we can ensure all young people feel safe on London streets. Together we can make London a welcoming, inclusive city we know it can be.
Together we can get thousands of Londoners to lead sustainable lives.
Together we can make London a better place for everyone.
Together we can transform our city.
Completely have the right idea. Juntos sí podemos cambiar el mundo. Our strength comes from our solidarity across race and social class, standing side by side to address the urgent issues facing our city, knowing that ultimately we're in this together. Our vision is for a London that is truly welcoming and inclusive. Que todo el mundo se sienta bienvenido, no matter where your journey started or how you got here. A London which gives opportunities to all, just like it has to me, una colombiana.
My name is Minal. When I first arrived in London, my new home, I felt shy and shamed. People struggled to understand me. I wanted to learn English, but I didn't know where to find a class.
London has been my home for the past 40 years, but I still do not have my immigration status. I have tried so many times to regularize my status, but it has not been easy. And I feel like life is so difficult. I cannot study, I cannot work. And I am in despair, and I am in limbo.
Hello, I'm Sophia. I sat in a packed train full of people and was harassed simply because I was wearing a headscarf. I was left traumatized. There was nobody to support me. No matter what we look like or where we come from, we should be able to feel safe in our home city.
We are Londoners, and this is our home.
Our home city, London, has always had two stories. One of hostility and division, and one of welcome and collective action.
London is at its best when neighbours stand together to fight for each other. We will not be divided.
At this crucial time, once again, Londoners face a choice between these two stories. We choose welcome. We want the next mayor to
create and launch an up-to-date and staffed website listing English classes across London, so ESOL can be more accessible.
Help Londoners without documents to settle our status by backing our campaigns and committing to a long-term strategy to understand and address our need for high-quality immigration advice.
And to work with us to make hate crime reporting easier and more effective.
Making London live up to the stories of welcome may be hard, but by acting together it's possible.
سوياً نستطيع.
Together we can.
함께라면 우린 할 수 있습니다.
Insieme possiamo.
在一起，我们可以。
Juntos sí podemos.
একসাথে আমরা পারবো.
Nínú ìṣọ̀kan lápapọ̀ a lè ṣe.
Together we can.
Hello, I'm Avril Pauton-Botan from St Barnabas Church in Walthamstow. I'm also a care home manager. London's two stories are not new. That video was filmed in front of the mural of the Battle of Cable Street, where 75 years ago, Londoners stood against racism and division. Just as they acted together then, we act together today for a more welcoming and inclusive London. I'm a proud Londoner of Filipino heritage, born and raised in Waltham Forest. The issues we are raising are personal to me and my community. Mr. Khan, will you please come forward? You have 2 minutes to respond to the proposals on ESOL status and hate crime you've just heard, and we'll have a further 2 minutes for follow-up.
Thanks, Albert. It's a pleasure to respond to this. Look, Londoners know my track record over the last 5 years. I began the campaign, London is Open. I was quite clear that many Londoners, I'm afraid, because of the nativist populist movements of some, because of Donald Trump, because of the hostile environment created by this government, many Londoners who were from a different colour were being persecuted and discriminated against. And I'm really proud to say yes, yes, yes to all three of your asks. Look, I'm the child of immigrants. This is personal to me. So I'm the mayor that after 10 years of cuts from the central government has invested record sums in ESOL classes. I'm the mayor, after cuts from the government on legal aid, has provided legal advice to those who are undocumented, to those who are the victims of the Windrush scandal, and to those Londoners who have got uncertain status to regularise their status. I'm also the mayor who stood up to the government when they've told rough sleeping charities, when they've told NHS staff, when they've told key workers to report to the Borders Authority, the border force, when somebody has not got documented status. And I've said no. I've made sure every person we help gets that help from City Hall. I'm also quite clear that we need to make sure we build on the progress made over the last 5 years, because there are some who try and scare Londoners to divide us. I've been a mayor who supports Londoners to unite us. Thank you.
Mr.
Oh, big pun,
Just to clarify, thank you very much. It's so encouraging to hear your words.
Oh, it's a pleasure, a duty.
I just want to clarify, in respect to, to say that you will be working with us to make hate crime reporting easier and more effective, that's a yes.
Yep.
And then also, we recognise that you've got a commitment to regularising the status of Londoners. We want to just make sure that you've already committed high-quality legal immigration advice.
Yeah, let me give you some examples of that, Mayoral, because it's really important that Londoners know that I walk the walk. So in the last 5 years alone, we've invested 700,000 to help those Londoners who need our assistance, a separate 20,000 for the Windrush generation, a separate 25,000 to those groups that need our help, and a specific set of money for Justice Together, £310,000. So that's the last 5 years. I want to build on that going forward.
Fantastic. That's exactly what we wanted to hear, that that's not a one-off, that's a long-term commitment. That's a number 2, yes. And then lastly, with respect to the ESOL website, that is going to be amazing for thousands of ESOL learners and providers who've been working hard for that campaign. Just to clarify, that website will be staffed?
Absolutely. It's really important that we have a one-stop shop. Listen, I'm now in charge of adult education. Over the last 10 years, 60% cuts from the government around ESOL. Learning to speak English is really important. It was important for my mum, important for my dad, and it's really important for new arrivals as well. It's a life skill, and it's the ladder that provides social mobility for many Londoners. I want all Londoners to speak the language, particularly those for whom it's not their first language.
Fantastic, Mr. Khan. For the London Citizens members at home, 5,000 of you, you've just heard 3 firm commitments from the first candidate. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Bailey.
As a youth worker, when my community, I was based in Ledbury Grove, you see a lot of people who were first arrivals, often unaccompanied minors as well. And you very quickly realised that ESOL was going to be very important to them. So we used to work really hard to raise the money to try to get that done. It wasn't as easy as it should have been. So absolutely commit to opening the website, but more importantly, staffing it as well. I think it's really important to make that happen. Of course, in London, we've seen a huge spike in crime, in knife crime, in sexual attacks, and of course, hate crime as well. And I think it's really important to direct the police, to give them the resources to follow these things up, but also to direct them to make sure these cases don't sit uninvestigated, because you need to create a welcoming city, and getting to the bottom of that is very important as well. And the more officers we can have doing this work properly, the better results we will get. when it comes to regularising people, we've got to commit the funding to keep the system going. Actually, I think the funding should be raised because there's a number of Londoners who are in limbo who need that help. And I'm of the opinion it's cruel to keep people in that situation. Let's help people move forward. I think actually we could take this to Downing Street. We could actually organise and go and meet the former Mayor of London, and let's have a conversation about where he left off. I think this idea of regularising people and giving proper legal support is crucial to comfort in London.
This is fantastic feedback, really encouraging, Mr. Bailey. So we've got 3 firm commitments from you. One, to helping us to work with us to make hate crime reporting easier and more effective. That's a yes from you.
Yes.
And also to help to create, launch and staff an up-to-date ESOL website. That's also number 2, yes. And then more significantly, to say that on the record that you are saying that you would help support, regularise the status of Londoners without status. I think it's significant that you say that because you are the second member of your party outside of the Prime Minister to publicly support this campaign. So
I'd have to add to this, of course, because I am the son of immigrants. I understand the impact that can have in the community. My grandparents are, of course, Windrush. But I also want to talk about what we do about hate crime. It's important that we follow these things up, that we have that extra support. And this is where London citizens can be of real help, because third-party reporting, where people are more comfortable in a safe space and they can come forward and your organisations can come and make that representation to the police, I think will be a vital link to form in London.
that's fantastic, Mr. Bailey. London citizens, members at home, we've just heard from our second candidate who has given us 3 big yeses to all 3 of our asks. We've just now concluded the first part of our campaign. Over to Reverend Rod.
Thanks, Avril. We know that we have to transition our city to a green economy. Time is running out, but climate justice must go hand in hand with social justice. Young people, low-income communities and communities of colour cannot be left out. We have to grasp this opportunity to make London greener and fairer.
Hello, I'm Noah. I'm 8 years old and live in North London. London's dirty air meant I used to lay awake coughing and struggling to breathe.
Hello, my name is Dan. I'm Noah's dad.
During lockdown, there have been less cars on the road near my house, and I've slept so much better.
If we don't act now, my life, your life, and the future of our families is going to be at serious risk due to climate change.
Hi, I'm Shifra, a leader from Acton Mosque in West London. Due to the pandemic, many people have been made unemployed, and over 600,000 Londoners are now living on furlough. This situation has been really serious in our member organisations around Heathrow, where tens of thousands of jobs have been made redundant.
Hi, I'm Dana. I'm mother leader from Parents and Community Together in Southwark. I care about the climate crisis because I want my kids to grow up in a safe and healthy place. Heating our home is the major cause of carbon emissions and also really expensive. My apartment used to cost £60 a month for gas and electricity. If my home was well insulated, it would be cheaper. I don't want to choose between the planet and a warm home. That is what we need, a London-wide housing retrofit program.
We need to act now. That's why we're calling on the next mayor to tackle climate change by upgrading 100,000 homes with good insulation and green energy, and in the process commit to creating 60,000 good green jobs.
We don't need to accept the housing, jobs and climate emergency. As London citizens, we will create a coalition of over 50 organisations to work with the next mayor to rebuild our homes and get London back to work. We have colleges that will train thousands of people, employers that will create thousands of new green jobs, and housing associations that will upgrade thousands of homes. With the help of the next mayor, we can win transformative change and ensure that every Londoner has a warm, well-insulated home, decent job, and a cleaner, greener city. Together, we can make this happen.
Together, we can.
Good evening. My name is Agla and I work for the Reach Children's Hub in Feltham, West London. Many parents of our children are stuck in unfulfilling and unsustainable jobs with very few career change prospects. This has been worsened in the past year, where many lost their livelihoods. I am part of this campaign to ensure that the next London mayor gets Londoners like the ones I work with back to work. Mr. Bailey, please respond to our asks.
I think when you talk about climate change and the effect that dirty air is having in London, I think there's some important aspects. We need to take away the sources of that poor air quality. So the buses and the cabs are number one and two in that. Once we reduce that, I think you're starting to talk about boilers as well. So we do a renewed London boiler scheme, a cashback scheme to get these old boilers out of circulation. And of course, that does two things. That means a warmer home and less emissions as well. So improving those boilers, I think, will be important. When it comes to building any new homes, we have to stick to modern building regs to make sure that they are fully green compliant and actually warm. They're much more livable places. I remember living on my estate, and one of the real horrible things was the amount of damp in the estate, and it led to quite poor health outcomes for a number of people. So I think we need to do that as well. When it comes to creating 60,000 green jobs, I actually have a plan to create 924,000 jobs, which covers the issue that you so eloquently highlighted there. And within that, you'll get more than 60,000 green jobs. But the real thing here is to give Londoners the opportunity to get their jobs back. Since we've had lockdowns, the unemployment rate in London has raised to 7.2%, and it's been young people who've been mostly affected by that. So we need a new economy to give those young people a new chance. And we need to get London open and moving, because those young people need to be developed as well. They need to be around people who can employ them and give them better prospects in the future.
Mr. Bailey, it is fantastic to hear how our visions align, and we are delighted for your creation of almost 1 million jobs for Londoners. We know, as you said yourself, the climate crisis is happening now, and it's a defining crisis of our generation, and these green jobs need to happen as soon as possible. I have not quite heard a direct commitment to 60,000 green jobs. Would you commit to our audience watching tonight to the 60,000 green jobs as part of your plan?
Yes, and more as well. And I want to be clear as well, when you talk about climate change in London, there's things that we can do to lower our CO2. In the middle of London, we have a green superhighway, also known as the Thames. We can use that to bring some of our heavier goods in and out of London. One barge on the Thames removes 50 lorries from the roads of London. It's these kind of innovations that will lower the traffic, lower the poor air quality, and make London a more breathable, better place. It means that people will more likely to walk and cycle, A, it'd be safer, and B, just be more pleasant, to not be big lorries speeding by every 2 minutes. These are the measures we can do in London, but we also have to be careful that we don't pass on the costs to the poorest Londoners. We do not want Londoners paying for rich Londoners to drive around in their cars. So we need to be careful about zones we put in. We need to be careful about barriers we might put up to making Londoners be able to participate in this green revolution. We mustn't attach the words green to cost. People must see it as entirely positive.
Mr. Bailey, thank you so much. London citizens, we have just heard Mr. Bailey clearly commit to creating at least 60,000 green jobs as part of his plan to create 1 million jobs for Londoners. Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Khan, would you please join me and respond to our asks?
Thank you very much for raising these really important issues. Look, the issue of air quality and climate change is an issue of social justice. It's the poorest Londoners who suffer the worst quality air. It's the poorest children who have stunted permanent lungs forever because of the poor quality air. And it's the poorest Londoners who are most likely to suffer from a whole host of health issues, from asthma to cancer to heart disease and other issues linked with the poor quality air. So it's important that we tackle all these issues. And as the Mayor of London for the last 5 years, I'm the first global leader to declare a climate emergency with a plan to meet the Paris Climate Accord. That's been confirmed by the C40 group of cities. And we've got a plan to get to zero carbon by 2030. The other part of the question asked by those on the auto queue just now, the Vox Pop, was the issue of making sure that we have green jobs going forward. So important. So I've already got together a team across London as part of the London Recovery Board, and we have a Green New Deal worth £50 million over the next 2 years, which will be invested in green jobs. And we're going to use £32 million of the Adult Education Fund to set up the Good Work Fund. And this will mean green academies, academies in creative, digital, health and social care, to make sure our young Londoners have the skills for these future-proof jobs. We can either be the last generation not to get it, or the first generation to get it and address these problems. And we've got a plan over the next 3 years to make huge progress on these really important issues. But we'll need the support of London citizens, because we can't do this without the government support. The nearer we get to election day, you'll get all sorts of candidates making fantastic, unbelievable promises. But we can't meet any of these promises in this agenda without support from the government. So I need your help to lobby the government in the year of COP26 to give us the powers and resources we need to address this really important issue.
Mr. Khan, thank you so much for your response. And I have good news for you on our second ask. Just last week, the G15 group of the London Housing Associations actually committed to upgrading 60,000 homes already. So we have done the lion's share of the work. So we are looking for the next mayor's leadership in getting the remaining 40,000 done. I have not quite heard a commitment from you on upgrading homes. Can I just clarify that if elected, you will provide your leadership and work with us and our housing association partners to get the remaining 40,000 fewer homes done?
Well, the G15 know because of our work over the last 5 years, as do the 32 councils and the City of London. We've been doing lots of work around retrofitting. And some of the ways we're going to create jobs going forward is not just in solar energy or electric vehicles or charging points or greening, but it's in retrofitting. So the good news about this agenda is not only does it address the issue of fuel poverty, it leads to warmer homes, but also it creates jobs as well. So my commitment to you tonight is, as the Mayor for the next 3 years at least, I'm hoping to build on that progress to retrofit even more homes in London. The last 5 years, we've done almost 30,000. We want to build on that going forward.
Okay, so Mr. Khan, just one more thing. So we have had your commitment to working with us on this issue. In terms of green jobs, I'm delighted to hear about the Green New Deal that you're setting up across London. And you have committed previously to 170,000 green jobs by 2030. What an amazing commitment to Londoners. But in reality, as you know, people do need jobs now. And it would be great to see your progress. If elected, will you publish how many good green jobs you create each year for Londoners?
Not each year, we'll do each quarter. I think one of the things I've been as the Mayor is the most transparent Mayor in London's history. And I want to build on that by making sure we regularly publish the amount of jobs that we're creating. So Londoners can see the progress being made and also the great work of the new Green Academy we're going to set up as well. And it's really important we give young Londoners the skills for the jobs of tomorrow, future-proof sectors, and the green sector is one of those sectors.
Mr. Khan, thank you so much. London citizens, what an amazing outcome. Mr. Khan has agreed to make himself accountable and transparent on the green jobs front. He has also committed to working with us and our housing association partners to retrofit more fuel-poor homes. I am delighted to say, London citizens, that tonight we have begun to transform the lives of over 260,000 people in London by making their homes warmer and getting 170,000 people back to work. Really well done. Thank you.
Amazing. I don't know about you, but I am loving this. We've negotiated 2 out of our 5 priority areas, and we've already secured some significant commitments from both candidates. I think that is amazing. We're going to move on to our 3rd issue tonight, the London living wage. St Anthony's Roman Catholic Primary School have been working tirelessly on this issue for a long time now, and they've won numerous campaigns. And you know what? They can sing as well. So let's hear what they have to say about how low pay has been impacted during the pandemic.
Overlook Wow, let's give the children of St Anthony's Catholic Primary School another round of applause. Thank you so much, children, and as we say, we are proud of you. Now, I'm sitting in the East End of London in Newham, where the Living Wage campaign was pioneered 20 years ago. Since then, it has been people on the ground in faith schools and other communities just like mine who have powered this movement. We have sat in front of CEOs and persuaded them to do the right thing by their employees. However, the pandemic has highlighted the impact that low pay has on our key workers who have worked tirelessly throughout this pandemic, as well as it affecting women and people of colour. We would like the Mayor to work alongside those closest to the injustice to eradicate the case of low pay. Let's hear from our action team.
Hi, I'm Claire and I'm from Merton Citizens. The Living Wage campaign has been one of the most successful campaigns for the past quarter of a century.
My name is Angela Fields. I run and own Custom House Workers Co-op. We pay London Living Wage, which means that all of our workers are equal.
The Living Wage was born from a simple idea that all working families need and deserve a wage that covers the cost of living and meets their everyday needs.
This matters to me because in 2008 I was made redundant and I was offered 0-hour contracts, which is no good to me as a single parent living in temporary accommodation.
The campaign we started has had an extraordinary impact.
In 2015 we achieved our first contract. We now have 6 contracts across East London and we are open to expand.
There are now over 2,000 London-based employers accredited with the Living Wage Foundation, and the movement has put over £600 million back into Londoners' pockets.
This cleaning co-op means a lot to me. It means that I can help other people to get a decent wage.
There are nearly 800,000 workers in the capital still struggling on wages that do not meet the cost of living, and thousands of businesses who could be paying the real living wage.
I'm Fiona and I work in a school, and it pains me every day to see parents coming in tired after working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. Our ask tonight is to commit to making London a living wage city with a target of 1 million Londoners to be employed by a living wage accredited employer by 2024.
And to make the Greater London Authority a living hours employer, including all parts of the GLA such as TfL and its key workers.
We know that if we organise together, we can put millions of pounds into workers' pockets.
Together we can.
Good evening, London citizens. My name is Nathan Chan. I'm the music teacher at St Anthony's Catholic Primary School. Mr. Khan, you have received our asks. You now have 2 minutes to respond.
Congratulations, I've met those children at St Anthony's on more than one occasion.
Thank you.
And they are brilliant. You should be really, really proud. Look, I've been by your side over the last 5 years on this really important issue, and you deserve the congratulations of all Londoners for campaigning on this really important issue. 5 years ago, when I was with you at the Copper Box, the London living wage was £9.15 an hour. It's now £10.85 an hour. But also over the last 5 years with me as Mayor, we've increased by more than 150% to more than 2,000 employees. As you've heard, the numbers of businesses now paying the London living wage. And that's because leadership from the top matters. And that roughly equates to almost 900,000 Londoners now receiving the living wage. And we're keen to make sure we build that progress going forward. So I can guarantee, with me as your Mayor, we'll carry on working side by side to persuade more employers to be living wage employers. And I think you're right, by the way, that we should also lead by example in relation to the issue of living hours. City Hall already is doing all the things that you need to do to be accredited. So my promise to you tonight is that only City Hall, but all the functional bodies will work towards exploring the accreditation that would be required going forward, because I believe we should be an exemplar. I want City Hall to be leading by example, to be a beacon around the world where if you do a hard day's work, you get a decent day's pay. And I'm afraid over the last decade or so, we've seen more and more Londoners on 0 hours contract We've seen more and more Londoners working in the gig economy, and that's one of the reasons you've seen the disproportionate number of Londoners who are black, Asian, minority ethnic suffering the consequences of this pandemic over the last 15 months. And my final commitment to you during this part of the meeting is my commitment to set up a steering group to look into how we can accelerate the numbers of employees paying the London living wage so more Londoners, in the words of St Anthony's children, can live in dignity.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. It's so great to hear your passion and support for Londoners to be paid a real living wage. Mr. Khan, during your first term, you've doubled the number of accredited employers, even throughout the pandemic. As the economy recovers, we look forward to continuing this trajectory and building a fairer economy. London citizens, you have heard Mr. Khan agree to convening a steering group. That will mean that the Mayor of London behind us will mean that we will have more people moving on to the real living wage. Now, I didn't hear you quite say that we would commit to getting 1 million workers working for accredited living wage employers. Now, this is a number that we have set working with the Living Wage Foundation, and because we are ambitious. We are London citizens, and this is where the campaign started. So, Mr. Khan, will you support us in our ambition to reach 1 million Londoners working for accredited living employers?
I love the Living Wage Foundation, as you know, but I think you've got to be a bit careful because you can reach this number by signing up a couple of big employers who already are paying the living wage. So I'm keen to make sure as many Londoners as possible receive the London living wage. So of course the ambition is to go north of 1 million for the reasons that were said by those on the video. There are 800,000 Londoners who currently aren't receiving a living wage. So that's the ambition, but I think you've got to be a bit careful by chasing the numbers. You might be signing up employees who already are paying the living wage. The real prize is making those employees who aren't paying the living wage pay the living wage and signing them up. We want to address the issue of poverty pay rather than ticking a box, signing up people who already are paying the London living wage.
Absolutely. And will you work with us to target those particular employees?
Side by side, shoulder to shoulder, working together to make sure London can be a living wage city.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Mr. Khan. And I just wanted to clarify, you have said that you are willing to work with us to explore the living hours as part of building on the good work standard.
Absolutely. Look, we're showing the rest of the world how to give workers dignity, how to get decent days pay for doing a hard day's work. And you'll see over the course of the next few weeks, months, some of the ideas we've got to make sure all employers will be good employers, so all Londoners can receive a decent pay for doing a hard day's work.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khan. We definitely celebrate working with you in affording better wages for Londoners and better working conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, now over to you, Mr. Bailey. You have heard our asks, and you also have 2 minutes to respond.
Listening to the children speak reminds me when I was a governor of a school, actually Old Oak Common School, and speaking to parents and seeing just how hard it was to make ends meet. I watched my mother struggle for years to feed my brother and myself all by herself. And for a long time in London, I was unemployed. And in that period, I did a lot of temping work, and we received less than minimum wage. So I fully understand the impact of having this happen. So for me, this is a pledge that I will willingly make, gladly make, because I think we could make a real difference to many, many Londoners. Because of course, you could sign up 1 million people, and actually I think you just keep going. You never stop with this. Because when you allow a family to have a decent income, you don't just give that one individual dignity, you don't make that one individual safe, you make the whole family safe. If my mother, early on in her career, could have received the living wage, it would have made an impact, not only for me, but my brother and everybody else in our household. So I think it's, for me, I cannot tell you just how important it is to support this work. And anything we can do to make this happen, of course we should do. We should also as well look at controlling the cost of living in London. Any bill that we can reduce from City Hall, we should be reducing, because of course it's your outgoings that really cripple you as a family. It's your outgoings that take that money away. And what we need to do is make more of the companies who do the right thing and pay the living wage, and make even more of the companies who don't. We need to make living wage in London the norm, and that means making particularly companies who can afford it, these big companies who are not making this step, let's bring them into the fold, let's sit them down, let's explain to them why they should be doing it. If they can't do it, we should say something to them publicly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey. It's great to hear all the work that you are doing in regards to working towards fair wages. But Are you willing to make London a living wage city by achieving 1 million workers?
Yes. Yes, yes, and I want to be clear, 1 million and more. I think if you hit your million, you just keep going. Of course, you get new people joining London, our population is growing, coming in at the bottom, and we want to make sure that we spread the effect, because communities that have decent, sustainable income, it defends them from so many of the poor social outcomes that we suffer from. I remember when I used to run my job club, we were constantly looking for employers who would pay the living wage. It wasn't right to send our young people out or our older people to get that job if it wasn't paying the living wage. And we often had to have a conversation with people to negotiate the wages up. And sometimes an employer just didn't know, but I think that excuse is gone now. Let's get London to be a living wage city, 100%.
Brilliant, Mr. Bailey. London citizens, you have just heard Mr. Bailey commit to working to get 1 million workers working for living wage accredited employers. What this means is moving £300 million from businesses back into the pockets of working Londoners. What a phenomenal commitment. But in regards to living hours, will we work against the injustices of insecure work and work with the GLA as an example to the rest of London and tackling job insecurity by putting living hours into the standard?
Absolutely. Again, when you temp, because they pay you such a low wage, you end up working all the hours God send. I've been there. It's not good for your family. It's not good for your health. It's one of the reasons with the outbreak of COVID, communities like mine had suffered such bad health outcomes. So absolutely we will do that work. But I think also as well, it's the minimum the GLA can do as a group. And of course, you could go out to the mayoral bodies, but we should be spreading that good practice down our procurement chain, saying if we're procuring goods from you, how are you treating your staff? I've worked on many 0 hours contracts, and it just means 1 week you have some money, the next week you don't have any food. We've got to break that cycle as well. We've got to make people be involved in constant, regular income so their lives are sustainable, to have much better social and health outcomes for all our families in London.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Mr. Bailey. That is a second yes to our second ask. And we look forward to working with the Mayor of London to tackling all the injustices that working Londoners face. Thank you.
Well done to the Living Wage team. We are now moving to our youth safety section. As a city, we have to face up to the fact that young people are losing their lives as a result of violence on our streets, and that not enough is being done to safeguard us.
We believe London can be a safe place where young people can thrive.
But unfortunately, it's not at the moment.
No young people being heard, and some are being silenced.
We know what the problem is, we know how to fix it.
But we need your help.
Youth reoffending rates are nearly double the adult cohort.
3/4 of victims to youth violence are aged between 15 and 19.
Gypsy traveller and Black Caribbean students experience at least twice the rate of exclusion in their schools.
My name is Dwayne Francis. I'm a pastoral leader at a South London secondary school. During the first lockdown, I was wrongly detained. It left me extremely vulnerable and upset.
Throughout the past year, our campaign group has made many positive changes so far. For example, the youth in our team have had a big impact in the contribution of the MOPAC Action Plan, which is part of a £1.7 million investment in the training of community police officers. This has helped reform police accountability structures. Furthermore, we have also monitored and assessed the work of Safer School officers.
As much as we want to engage our young people, we also need to give our parents a more informed understanding of the opportunities and options that are within education in order for their young people to succeed.
Our team has also been contributing to a strand of parenting work with the Violence Reduction Unit. As you can see, we have done so much work already. However, there is still much more that needs to be done.
We need our future mayor's support so that we can ensure that young people in London feel safe and also confident that their city is a place in which they can develop and thrive. So we are asking for the following.
For police scrutiny panels to have the power to recommend consequences such as learning and restricted street duty, and fund research on the harms of stop and search on young people and Black communities.
Establish a parent commissioner for London at the GLA to amplify and advocate for parent voices.
Commit funding and resources to tackle the issue of school exclusions.
Together we can.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Dwayne Francis. You saw the beginning of my story just now. But before we hear from the candidates, I needed to be here live, so you can hear and maybe feel the pain behind experiences like mine. I was 15 when I was first stopped. You fit the description of people who just committed a robbery in the area. The second time, I'm sat on railings outside a train station. A batten's pulled out. I'm dragged to the floor, face down and handcuffed. It's this time last year, on my way to support key worker children. I'm detained in handcuffs. Apparently they can see cannabis flakes on my floor of my car. Young people need investment, but most importantly, they need to be loved. And consistently, they're told by the people that they love, who's supposed to love them, that they are in the wrong. We need to see action. Together we can.
Hi, my name is Beverly Wong, and I'm a mother with many hats. I'm a member of St. Paul's Church in Brixton, a family support worker for Chips Peace in Lambeth, and a South London Parent Power leader. Mr. Bailey, you have heard the asks in the video, which we have also sent to you in advance. You have 3 minutes to respond, and I have 2 minutes to clarify.
Thank you. Look, hearing that story is heartrending, and as a youth worker, I spent a lot of my time advocating for young people who've been stopped and searched, people who've been detained, collecting people from the police station. And that story led me to understand that we need to make the streets safe for our young people. Unfortunately, we've seen very steep rises in knife crime and robbery as well. And the real pressure for the black community at the minute is, as a black Londoner, we're 4 times more likely to be murdered than our neighbours. So we have to make the streets of London safe. And that means 2 things. When you talk about all of the pledges, yes, yes, and yes again, and yes twice over, particularly when it talks about parents. For me, helping parents understand the pressures that their children are under, giving parents the support they need is important. As a youth worker, one of the most powerful pieces of work I did was when we did family liaison. And to see those parents be able to be given the skills to take charge of the future of their children was incredible. And it was a gift that kept giving. So absolutely, I absolutely will do that as well. When you talk about a round table for school-led interventions, some of the work I've been doing with the young people I mentor is around exclusions in their community from the schools they go to. Again, I think if we can get these exclusion numbers down, if we can support young people in the correct way, we can have multiple positive effects on young people. So again, absolutely prepared to do this work. And this work, I think, will need funding, and I will place the funding in there. And the way I think I will do this is to open an office for community policing, because it means that all of these conversations can be convened properly, regularly, and funded to make sure they actually happen. It's really important we get on top of this issue in London, because the level of killings in our community is unbelievable. Robbery has gone up 86% as well. And I'll finish by saying this. Just the other day, a young man that I've been working with said to me, "We live with murderers in our midst." And it absolutely broke my heart, because he meant what he said. We were talking about should he carry a weapon or not. And obviously I was trying to convince him not to. And his pushback was, well, we live with murderers in our midst. We must make the streets of London safe for our young people so they can concentrate on building the futures and that they want to build, and not spend their time trying to keep themselves safe, because we as the adults, we as parents are keeping them safe. I have 2 young children at home, and my son in particular is approaching the age where he'll be allowed out on his own. I'm a little bit worried about that, and I really wish I didn't have to worry in that way.
Thank you for your comments. I heard yes on a round table for school exclusions.
Yes.
That's correct. I believe I heard a yes for appointing a parent commissioner.
Yes.
I did not hear a yes, so I will have to say I have heard a no on commissioning research on the impact of Section 60 stop and search.
Excuse me. Here's a yes. I focus on the other 2 because the parent piece and the school piece. I'm a school governor, so these schools are alive to me, and the parent piece has always been alive to me. Because as a youth worker, the children I was most able to help was when I started to get in contact with their parents. So excuse me, it's absolutely a yes on that as well.
Just to clarify, it's a yes on the research of Section 60 impact on young black and young people in London.
Yes, absolutely.
I heard a no in giving more power to community scrutiny panels.
No, again, a yes, excuse me. Look, I started by saying yes, 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 and yes again. So yes, all of them. And it's no point having a panel if you're not going to give the powers, because it becomes a talking shop. And I've been in youth work long enough now to not want to be involved in a talking shop, because of course you give the power. Because if you're going to do stop and search, and I believe it has the ability to save lives, remember, we have had 2 record years in a row for homicides in London. We're at 11-year high. We have to do something on the streets of London. We also need to scrutinise the police. We also need the police to know that if their behaviour is not appropriate, because remember, they're meant to be serving our communities have ways of modifying that behaviour. So absolutely, I'll do that.
So, London citizens, we've heard from one candidate 4 clear yeses, and I'm sure a commitment to continue working with citizens as well is included within that.
It's implicit. It's implicit. Like I said before, it's the best way of gaining information from our diverse communities across London. It's excellent.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. Mr. Khan, please come forward. You've heard Mr. Bailey's responses. You too have had our asks in advance. You now have 3 minutes to respond.
Well, thanks, Beverly, and thanks to all those who took part in the video. This is the one issue that keeps me up at night time, both as a Member of Parliament for 11 years, as the Mayor of London. I've met too many bereaved families who've suffered the loss of a loved one, and too many victims of a knife crime, but also too many young people like the person in the film who've been at the receiving end of a bad experience from the police in relation to stop and search. And the safety of Londoners, whether from the pandemic, whether from terrorists, or whether from violent crime, is one of the most important issues that a mayor has to worry about. But we need to have a grown-up conversation about the reasons for the increase in violence over the last few years. Serious youth violence began going up in 2013 across the country, including London, and youth violence in 2014 across the country. And there are complex causes for the increase in crime: deprivation, alienation, a lack of opportunity, inequalities, and I'm afraid 11 years of cuts don't help. Cuts do have consequences, not just losing police officers, youth clubs closing down, but public services being cut as well. Over the last 5 years, in the face of that austerity, we've invested record sums to have more police officers who are in the community, but also invested record sums giving young people constructive things to do. That's why we've got the country's first violence reduction unit using a public health approach to deal with the issue of violent crime. We've heard from some of the great members of the citizens who've been advising us in relation to prevention, but also advising us in relation to the action plan. And the action plan we have arose not just from the experience you've heard, but from the brutal murder of George Floyd last year in Minnesota, Minneapolis. We know the issue of racism against black people isn't unique to America. It also happens in this country. So we spent last summer, the Deputy Mayor for Police, the Deputy Mayor for Communities, the police, myself and many others, going around the communities across London with the citizens to listen to ideas from the community about how to make our police more accountable, because trust and confidence is an issue. And we've published an action plan, and we're rolling out the action plan. And the action plan has, you heard in the film, some examples of the difference it's making. The community are now involved in training our police officers. The community are now involved in relation to scrutinising our police officers. The community can now see the body-worn videos that I paid for when I first became mayor to roll out, so the interaction between the police and the member of the public who stopped and searched is recorded and can be looked at by the community. And we're also encouraging the community to join the police service. I want the police service in London to look like the community that it needs to be policing. I'm hoping over the next few years to make more progress. We're seeing progress over the last few years in relation to reducing violent crime. With the help of all Londoners, I think we can make more progress going forward.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I did not hear any yeses. I heard no for the round table, to chair that round table around school exclusions. Would you like to? And if that's correct, we're still going to work on those, because we've got to tackle one of the key causes of violence. I did not hear a yes either to appointing a parent commissioner for London. If that's the case, using your VRU model, would you work with us to expand parent voices across the GLA within the next 2 years? I did not hear a yes regarding commissioning research on the impact of Section 60 stop and search. Again, we will keep fighting for the voices of the victims of stop and search. And I did not hear a yes in giving more power to community scrutiny panels. And if that's the case, will you convey a meeting with key stakeholders within the police to discuss the powers of community scrutiny panels within the first year of office?
Well, let's deal with all those points that you've made. How much time do I have?
She'll ring the bell.
Well, the short answer is, I think, that just like with Sean Bailey, I think you're in danger of mishearing what we said, and it happens with the pressure of the lights and stuff. So as I already said in my answer, we're already using the work of the citizens to help us with scrutiny. We're already doing a huge amount of research in relation to issues around disproportionality. We've now got in London police stops being scrutinised for ethnicity as well, to make sure we can undertake comprehensive research about the issue of disproportionality. And you've already given credit to the VRU for the great work taking place with parents and carers in the network taking place there. We're going to build on that work going forward, working with the citizens on these really important issues. We've only able to reach where we are is because of the contribution from Londoners, including those in the citizens, and I'm going to carry on building on that going forward as a mayor.
I hear the building, but I hear no confirmed or concrete answers, regardless of the lights. However, we have some wins from both candidates and we have some no's, but I'm sure that we've got a commitment to continue working with us. London citizens, let's flag up our emojis and make some noise in our houses for the wins. These are massive steps for the young people and the parents who have been behind the scenes helping and working, because we know that together we can. Thank you.
To the candidates for their commitments and to the brilliant team of leaders behind this. As we move on to our final issue, housing and homelessness, I am going to hand over to Zach to lead us through a live poem.
Hello people, my name is Zach. I'm from the Somali Brabantese Welfare Association in Barnet. They're watching me as well, so hello everyone there. Earlier this evening, we asked you to describe your home. These past 15 months have shown so acutely the importance of a safe home. This poem is made from your tweets and tells the story of a city in lockdown. It is called My Home Is. My home is my haven and sanctuary. My home is the people I love. My home is where I'm completely myself. My home, well, it's a mess. My home is a place of safety. My home is a place of welcome and joy. My home is the people I eat and laugh with. My home is a difficult place to be. My home is a blessing. My home is my project. My home is lonely. My home is tough. My home should be my safety net. My home is where I stop. My home is filled with memories, but my home is where I belong. Thank you.
Thank you all for being part of that poem that was made from your tweets and messages. Having a safe and decent home matters. So let's hear from our housing team on how we can make that change together.
Thank you. My name is Shamara Fletcher and I'm a principal partner with Churches Together in England and a leader within Tower Hamlet Citizens. London has a housing crisis and the pandemic has only made things worse. As London citizens, we've secured community land trust homes across all of London and more affordable homes on the Olympic Park. Last year, we opened Malachi Place, supported accommodation for people facing homelessness, led by the community and the Ilford Salvation Army. So let's hear from Stephen. Over to you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen. I live at Ilford, Salvation Army's Malachi Place. Before that, I was homeless for 15 months. I found myself sleeping in car parks. I became depressed because I felt invisible. When you're on the street, you lose hope and everything spirals. Since being in Malachi, everything is different. I have a community of friends and neighbours. I'm excited about my own future. But this isn't just about me. There are hundreds of people on the street who deserve a chance I was given. Will you help us grow Malachi Places across our city? Thank you.
Homelessness takes many different forms, and for countless families, it means being stuck in bad, temporary accommodation for years. Now let's hear from Sarah. Over to you, Sarah.
Hi, I am Sarah. I am user of Spresa program, which is an active member of Telco and South London Citizens. My husband, our little girl, and I live in a shared temporary accommodation. We live in only one room, and we have to share the kitchen with other families. There are cockroaches on the floor, hanging wallpaper, and dumps everywhere. How many of you tonight are parents or grandparents? You will understand my pain. I have to turn the reality into an imaginary world. I tell my daughter that cockroaches are here looking for their mom. We look at the cracked ceiling and imagine a big map of the world, where the cracks are river and the dump is sea. I tell myself many times that having a roof over our head is better than being outside. I hope if you became the mayor of London, you will do everything in your power to make sure children don't have to live in conditions like this.
Well done, Sarah. Well done. Everybody, all 5,000 people can feel your pain this evening, and together we must do better. We're now going to hear from JP. Over to you.
Hi, I'm John Paul, or JP, from the Advocacy Academy in Lambeth Citizens. Sarah's story reminds me of my own. Some of my first memories are of constantly having to move house, sometimes 3 or 4 times in a year. Our stories interlink together, me, Sarah, and Stephen, and thousands of other Londoners. The next Mayor of London is in this room with me, and we want you to work with us. And I invite Mr. Khan to respond to the asks you've received before.
Sarah for her bravery in telling her story, and it's a story I'm afraid too many Londoners have. Look, you know me, you've known and worked with me for the last 5 years. I'm somebody who grew up in a council estate, who but for a council estate, my father who was a bus driver, my mum who used to do piecework, wouldn't have had security of tenure or a roof over their head they could afford to live in. When I became mayor, I discovered in the year before there were 0 new council homes begun and 3 homes where you pay a social rent. So there were no foundations for me to build them. The previous mayor's London plan required developers to do 0 amount of affordable homes. And we've started from that to where we've got now. What we've got now is last year, Sarah, it's no consolation to you yet, we began building more council homes in any year since 1983. The year before, more council homes in any year since 1984. Over the last 3 years, we've started building record numbers of homes. 3 years ago, 12,500. That's a record, by the way. The next year, 14,500. Last year, 17,200. And the good news is 7,000 of those are with a social rent, but also we're starting to build now community land trust homes, which is really another example of the pioneering work of London citizens. As a result of the meeting we had 5 years ago in the cupboard box, I promised to have a pipeline of community land trust homes, but also to give advice to those across London who wanted to set up community land trust communities across London. And here's the good news. We promised we'd have 1,000 community land trusts in the pipeline by 2021. We've beaten that. We've got 1,200 plus in the pipeline. We also set up a community land hub with millions of pounds behind it, which is supporting developments across our city from St Clement's to Brasted Close, from Christchurch Road to Cable Street and many others across our city. We're also making sure we help rough sleepers. JP talked about his experience. Since I've been mayor, we've helped more than 11,000 rough sleepers off the road. 80% are still off the road. They're in proper homes. We've also, over the last 15 months during the pandemic, helped 2,300 people off the roads. 86% are still indoors. The problem is there's a pipeline of more people coming onto our roads, and because of a combination of policies around welfare benefits, around family breakup, around alcohol dependency, around drug dependency. That's why we're lobbying the government to do more prevention work to stop people becoming homeless in the first place. Look, you've seen over the last 5 years the progress we've made, laying the foundations to finally fix this housing crisis. A housing crisis made worse by successive governments. You've seen the work we can do together, shoulder to shoulder, side by side. Not so much together we can, together we can't.
Thank you, Mr. Khan, for your response. I'd like to thank you for your commitment you've shown to the housing crisis and to the community-led housing sector. I'd just like to clarify a few things with you,
Sure.
if that's okay. Do you commit to increasing the proportion of social rent and genuinely affordable homes on the Olympic Park and Old Oak Common sites to ensure that there is a legacy of at least 50% affordable housing on those sites?
Yeah, let me tell you the good news and the bad news. So since I've been mayor, it's 50%. The problem is a number of applications were given permission before I became mayor by Sean's friend Boris Johnson, and a number of those are way below 50%. They're not even affordable. So because of that, that'll affect the total number. But since I became mayor in 2016, I can promise 50%.
Thank you very much. Londoners, that is a huge win. That ensures that people like me and other Londoners will be able to get affordable homes that they need. Thank you. I'd also like to clarify, will you champion the community-led housing sector by ensuring that money from the fund is more accessible to small community-led housing organisations and intervene where there's barriers?
Absolutely. I mean, we set up something called the Small Sites Fund, and we've also put aside some money in the community fund, and it's deliberately targeted towards exactly the area you're referring to, which is ensuring that this money is accessible and reaches the small community-led housing associations and organisations who need our support, and also those communities who want to have community land trust homes, but haven't got the expertise. We'll give them the expertise with the hub we've set up.
Thank you. I'd also like to ask, will you use GLA-controlled land and your influence over other landowners to ensure that more sites like Malachi Place are available for innovative homeless accommodation for homeless people?
Absolutely, and it's worth just saying this, the council there, Redbridge Council, the leader, Councillor Jazz Athwell, was really brave doing this, and I was with him last week in Redbridge. He was opposed by other political parties, including the Conservatives, but he was brave because it's an important project. You've seen the difference it's made to just one person taken off the streets. I promise I'll carry on being that brave mayor, supporting great council like Redbridge if I'm re-elected on May the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. I'd also like to ask, will you champion a set of stretching quality standards for temporary accommodation in London?
Absolutely. What we've seen is not just poor quality standards in some permissions being given by councils, but the government's now allowed what's called permitted development. You can switch an office to becoming homes without the need for planning permission, and they're rabbit hutches. What I've been saying is we must have good design, good quality homes. The capital scheme is one scheme, and we've made sure with the New London plan that design is at the start, including space for children to play in as well. We've made sure in every development there's things for families to do, there's community space, but also we've made sure within 10 minutes of any home there is green space for children to play in, shown to be even more important over the last 15 months.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your commitment to supporting us on temporary accommodation. This is such an important issue for our members, and we're excited to work with you on that. London citizens, I want everyone at home, the thousands of you watching at home and in your institutions, to recognise what an important moment that is. One of the mayoral candidates has agreed to work with us on an issue that is in desperate need of attention. And we, as London citizens, have put that on the agenda for Londoners. Thank you, Mr.
Stay safe. Thanks, JP.
Mr. Bailey, I invite you to
respond to our ask, you'll have 3 minutes as well.
Thank you so much. Look, this is the big problem that London has faced for many, many years. And the truth is simply not enough homes have been built since 2016. We were given really huge figures. Those figures never materialised. And I know how important it is and what pain that leads to. I was homeless through most of my 20s. So when I hear JP speak, I had times where I was moving 2-3 times a month because I was just desperate and relying on people to have a place to put me. The one thing we know to help our housing crisis in London, we have to build more. So what I'll be doing is creating a City Hall backed and controlled housing developer with one goal: to produce appropriate housing for London. It's not about profit, it's about building those houses for social rent and of course for people to move on as well. We have to build across the piece so people can move up and leave some space at the bottom for people to move in. And how wonderful would it be to be removed from the scope of a dodgy landlord who could get his hands on you and take all your money away. Look, creating community land trusts as well. I used to be the chair of my housing association. We sat in our little group and we looked after the homes that we lived in. And the really important thing about that, we were able to keep costs down. We were able to help the poor members of our community because we had that control. What was very tough for us was the expertise around housing and all the rest of that. And it's a kind of area where you really want to do the work, but you do have to have the expertise because the values of the properties are so high. So I think we need to give more money to that process and give more smaller groups the ability to form those groups, because what we want, we have lots of small sites across London. We could allow those groups to have those sites, but of course we need to support them to do that. And I don't just mean financially, of course, but of expertise as well, so they can make the best of it for the people around them. And you talked about rough sleeping. And when I hear about Malachi, it just reminds me that we need to permanently establish an emergency housing unit, that we can get the information centrally held at City Hall so that people can find those places much more easily. Organisations who want to offer the space know that there's a central place they can give it, so it's administered in the correct way. So for all of your pledges, I think they are so heading in the right direction, but ultimately in London we need to build more, and that's my plan, to build more affordable homes in London.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey, for your response. I'd like to thank you for your commitment to building more homes in general, and also to committing to support the London Community Land Trust and community-led housing sector. I'd just like to, again, clarify a few things. Do you commit to increasing the proportion of social rent and genuinely affordable homes on the Olympic Park and Old Oak Common sites?
Yes, wherever it's legally possible, absolutely do that. But that's why I talked about forming Housing for London as well, because that's a way of doing it beyond those sites, different sites. That's a way of having community land trusts, and which will give you hopefully 100% of affordable homes. That's a way of accessing all the small sites we have in London. How many times have you driven around, walked around London, been on the bus, pulled up at the bus stop and thought, why is that piece of land derelict? Why isn't someone using it? Why aren't we using it at home? That's what Housing for London will do. It will turn those things into affordable homes for Londoners.
Cool. Thank you. So that's a yes to the
Absolutely,
first answer.
100%.
I'd also like to ask, will you look into the fund itself, the community housing fund, and see if you can remove any of the barriers that small community housing groups are facing?
Yes, because once you've committed the money, you want it to be as effective as possible. And if there's administrative barriers, or if there's professional barriers, people need more support, of course you move them, as you're wasting our money. And the one thing our housing crisis has showed us, we cannot waste time. We've wasted it 5 years already. We certainly can't waste any money. Let's get on it. So barriers to be removed, absolutely.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to confirm that you will help more projects like Project Malachi get built, and you also use the purchasing power of the mayor to help make that happen.
Yeah, again, that's why I want to form a permanent emergency housing list, and absolutely I'll support projects like Project Malachi, because they help people with the broader issues of getting off the street. It's not only just about the physical building, it's all about the issues in their lives as well. Do they have substance misuse? Are they depressed? Do they just need some help because they have no family around?
Thank you. I'd also like to just finally clarify, quickly, will you commit to championing a stretching quality standards in temporary accommodation?
Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you very much.
In the interest of time, that's all I'll say, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey.
I would like to say a huge gracias to both
Sadiq Khan and Sean Bailey for joining us here this evening. It has really been a very different event, shall we say. And well done to our housing and homelessness team. What a remarkable way to finish our evening. I stand here in awe of you all and truly feel grateful that my parents took that massive leap of leaving everything behind to move to London, Londres, a city where that little girl from Colombia has a right to use her voice and fight for what is right. What a remarkable evening. Over 5,000 of us coming together with a shared purpose, physically distant but united in spirit.
London citizens, we have done some serious business tonight. We're not here to complain. We're not here to wait for those with power to do the right thing and wondering whether they will. No, we organise so that we can secure clear, meaningful and ambitious commitments from decision makers. At this assembly, we have won significant commitments that will lead to genuine change in the lives of many, many Londoners. And that is a truly amazing thing.
That is fantastic, but it doesn't end here. First of all, let's remember to vote on the 6th of May, el 6 de mayo. A list of all the candidates standing for election is posted in the chat right now. Democracy was never meant to be a one-off thing we do every couple of years. No, democracy is a Greek word, which literally means power of the people. There has never been a better time to renew our commitment to democracy in its true, fullest sense. We invite you all to be part of this change. It's only together we can. Congratulations to everyone and good night. Buenas noches.